My chest here is really puffy, so now I feel like I have a bosom, and it's very strange, but I kind of like it. Oh, hi, and welcome to SABnessful, where I give my honest opinions that no one really cares about, but will give anyways. And today, I'm legitimately surprised to be talking about the hit show Arcane Season 2, which was released in 2024. I'm surprised to be talking about it because I loved Season 1. There's nothing I changed about it, and I really only talk about shows on this channel that I changed, which, you know, is kind of like my whole shtick. But Season 2, unfortunately, did not hit for me as well as Season 1 did, and there are some issues I have that must be addressed. But first, if you're feeling ever so kind, please make sure to caress that subscribe button to help my channel grow. And you know, you can also hit the like button, that also helps me. You don't have to, it's up to you. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but that'll be nice. And make sure to stay to the end of the video to see how I would change the season. So when Season 2 was released, it came out in 3 acts, with 3 episodes being in each act. And just to be upfront, it's Act 2 that I have issues with, and it's less about what's in it and more about what's not in it. But I'll get there. Enough said, let's zoom into Arcane Season 2. Spoilers abound. Episode 1 starts right after Jinx's attack on Piltover's council. We see the destruction caused by the attack and that Mel and Jace survived along with a couple other council members, but not everyone does. Most notably Cassandra Kierman, Caitlyn's mother. We also see Jace take a badly injured, basically dead, Victor to his lab and use Hexcore to try and save him. There's then a funeral for Caitlyn's mother, and after that the remaining council members, which is literally just 3, vote to invade Zon with the purpose of finding Jinx. Caitlyn tells Vi about this and asks her to become an enforcer, but Vi can't bring herself to do this. And as a quick reminder, Vi's and Jinx's parents were killed by enforcers when they were kids. Upset by this, Vi goes off on her own where she meets Loris, and the two have a drink together. And by a drink, I mean many. Later on, we see Caitlyn imagining taking down Jinx, and Jace comes up to check in on her. And it's pretty clear from this interaction she's holding back a lot of anger.
But then there's Jinx. Laugh. I want to tear that laugh from her throat forever.
Kate.
I know. I just understand now how easy it is to hate them.
Next, we see a drunken Vi get approached by Junior Officer Maddie, and this green guy, I don't know his name. Name of the green guy in Arcane. Let's see, character oh my god, why are there so many? There we go, there's strike team. Let's see. Steb? His name is Steb? Interesting. Anyways, he's best boy. Aww. Maddie tells Vi that Caitlyn spoke highly of her and that she's glad Vi is joining the Enforcers. There's then a memorial for the fallen council members, which is attacked by Zonites, one of them being Rennie, whose son was accidentally killed by Jace in Season 1. All the main characters then fight back, and honestly, this is probably my favorite fight scene of the whole season. The fight choreography is well done, and it's extremely intense. Run, Steb, run! And just when it looks like our main characters are going to lose, Bessa comes in and saves the day, our hero. After the fight, Vi checks in with Caitlyn, who once again lets out her frustrations.
A memorial? What kind of animals?
They wanted the spectacle. All right, they're trying to scare you.
All they did is piss me off.
Vi tries to comfort her and agrees to join her to find Jinx. The council has another meeting, which Caitlyn interrupts.
We aren't prepared for a full-scale invasion. The Undercity's attack proved that.
This is a closed council meeting. Who let you in here?
I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kierman. Address me with respect, or keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, tell him off, Caitlyn. Caitlyn tells the council she's putting the invasion on hold as she'll lead a strike team instead to find Jinx. This team being herself, Vi, Loris, Maddie, and Steb. Oh god, this shot was so good. The music, the cinematography, everything about this episode was so good. I had such high hopes. Episode 2 begins with Jinx reflecting on killing Silco and Zon being in complete disarray now that he's gone. It's during this chaos that we meet plot device Isha, who falls onto Jinx while running away from some goons, who Jinx quickly takes out. Due to Jinx saving her, Isha decides to tag along with her. Meanwhile, Savika meets with the remaining Chem Barons, who are basically the overlords of Zon, to try and get everyone to join forces and put an end to the chaos, but this doesn't go well. After this, Savika goes to Silco's office where she finds Jinx, and they reflect together on trying to figure out what to do now that Silco's gone, and it's heavily implied that they're going to team up. Next, we see Victor wake up from his, what do you call that wall of gooey hex tech? And he basically looks like a robot now that all his injuries are healed. He briefly talks to Jace, but parts ways with him as they both had different ideologies on what to do with the hex tech. Jace saying it could be used to help people, while Victor thinks it should be destroyed. After this, we see the Firelight space where we see them taking people in due to the chaos. We see Echo talking to Batdilf. I also don't know his name. Name of Batdilf. Oh, I should not type that. That guy in Arcane. Scar? His name is Scar? That's a little basic. Anyways, while talking to Scar, Echo notices one of the tree's leaves looks diseased. So he brings it to Heimerdinger, who then takes Echo to Jace's lab to get more information, where they meet Jace, who then helps them figure out what's going on. Long story short, it's due to corruption from the gemstone that's buried deep underground. Not the smartest thing to wear a black shirt against a black chair with kind of a dark background. I kind of just fade. But that's okay. Next, we see Jinx gather parts in the rundown arcade, where she barely escapes Caitlyn's strike team. While running away, she's attacked by Smeech, one of the Chem Barons, but with the help of Savika and her new arm that Jinx built for her, they successfully murk him. After this, we see Victor deep in Zon, I think the Fissures, where he's following the voice of Sky, who was killed by the Hex Tech in Season 1. And we see Victor do some guru magic stuff and heal somebody. Episode 3 starts with a montage of Caitlyn's strike team trying to find Jinx, and they find Smeech's surviving goon tied up. They free him and he tells them where Jinx is headed, which sparks Caitlyn into action.
This is it then. Cuff him.
Hi! I told you everything I know!
You're a confessed criminal. You'll spend your retirement in a cell. Check your gear. This is what we've trained for.
Can I get a minute?
After this, we see Mbessa meeting with a member of the Merchant Guild, Amara, who turns out to be a mage from Black Rose and attacks Mbessa. And I'm just gonna say this now, I did not like the Black Rose storyline. I think it distracted from the main storylines, but I'll get into that later. Anyways, Mbessa's bodyguard Victus is able to break Amara's grasp, and he and Mbessa are able to kill her. Side note, why does Mbessa need a bodyguard? She can take down anyone by herself. Well, I guess not in this case. We then see Vi suggest to Caitlyn that it should just be the two of them that go after Jinx, and the others should head back as they could be liabilities. Caitlyn agrees to this, and they go off alone. Meanwhile, we see Councilmember Salo is having his wounds being treated by Lest when Mbessa comes in to talk with him. Throughout the first 3 episodes, we see Mbessa using Salo as a way to get herself into the power structure of Piltover. We then see Mel meet up with Lest, who tells her what she overheard, and Mel investigates what her mother is up to. While this is happening, Vi and Caitlyn are looking for Jinx, and Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger visit the gemstone buried underground, and a wild ruin appears. At least I think it's a wild ruin. I'm sorry if I'm not describing or labeling the hex stuff correctly. I did try to research this stuff, but it was just very confusing to me. Anyways, Vi and Caitlyn find and fight Jinx and Savika, and the wild ruin gets very trippy. Another great fight scene happens, cool transitions, epic underscore, but the important thing is that Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger all disappear, and Caitlyn and Vi are able to pin down Jinx. But as Vi is about to give the final blow, Isha steps in to protect Jinx. Caitlyn tries to take the shot at Jinx, but Vi prevents her, worried that Isha could get hit instead. This distraction allows Savika to ignite an explosion.
Oh, no, this isn't how it's supposed to.
And how exactly was it supposed to go? Because of the explosion, Vi and Caitlyn are blown away, and Piltover is covered in colorful gas, but I don't really understand what Jinx's goal was here, but I'll get more into that in episode 4. Anyways, Caitlyn is upset with Vi for preventing her from taking out Jinx and leaves her behind, and Mel is taken by Black Rose. We then see a meeting where Mbessa has gathered all the who's who in Piltover and puts her plan into action.
You must declare martial law. Appoint a general to lead until this threat is vanquished. A pillar of your community, whose house has always stood for progress, who may consider my experience and my entire detachment of Noxian soldiers at their disposal. I could only be referring to Caitlyn Kiraman.
Yeah, get wrecked, Salo. Mbessa has definitely noticed Caitlyn's anger and knows she can utilize that to her advantage. It's also revealed to us that Mbessa was the one behind the memorial attack, wrapping up the first act. Now we get into Act 2, where my main issues start, especially episode 4. The episode begins with the montage of Zon being taken over by the Enforcers and Zonites rebelling against this. It's also shown that Jinx is seen as a rebellious figure for her actions against Piltover, and many people have even dyed their hair blue in support of her. We then see Caitlyn in bed with, oh, damn, okay. Anyways, Caitlyn is upset that the siege of Zon has gone on for so long, but refuses to call it off until Jinx is found. And by the way, there's been a few month time jump, which isn't explicitly said, but it's clear based off of the content we're shown and new character designs. We then see Jinx hanging out with Isha, and Jinx tells Isha that she sees herself, though more accurately Powder, in her. And then we get a line that throws me off.
Did Savika put you up to this?
That's a past life, kid.
Jinx is dead.
What? What happened? Why is Jinx dead all of a sudden? How did we go from setting up colorful explosive gas all over Piltover to this? I guess the implication is that she got scared when Isha could have gotten killed when they were fighting Vi and Caitlyn, but I feel like this is such a leap for a character and we haven't seen enough to warrant this pivot. And this goes back to the colorful explosions. What was the goal there then if you were just going to hide away right after? And look, Jinx isn't exactly a sane character. She's very unpredictable, so we don't need a concrete answer, but this is just a little too unpredictable for me. Anyways, later on, we get a scene at at a checkpoint where Rictus pulls one of the Zonites out of line violently. Oh look, Scar's there. Rictus then tells everyone that this is all happening because of Jinx, who they refuse to turn in. As Rictus is giving his speech, a hooded figure appears and drops explosives everywhere, causing a distraction that allows most of the Zonites to get through, and we're shown that it's Isha pretending to be Jinx. We then check in on Caitlyn and Maddie investigating the checkpoint incident, and Ambassa comes in to talk to Caitlyn. Maddie is dismissed and they talk about the incident, and Caitlyn brings up her frustrations.
Was it for my encouragement that your man Rictus was instigating violence? Arrests require cause.
What greater cause is there than returning peace to this city?
Why is peace always the justification for violence?
Ambassa then emotionally manipulates Caitlyn to get her back in line, as one does. Back with Jinx and Isha, Sevika comes in to convince Jinx to show up at the rally Sevika is hosting that night, telling Jinx that she has the chance to rally Zon together, but she refuses. We then get shots of Rictus beating up the Zonite from the checkpoint, who tells him about the rally. We then see the rally where Sevika tries to rally everyone together, but this isn't going well until Isha shows up, revealing to everyone that she's the one who did the checkpoint incident. This is then enough to get everyone on board. This whole scene is very moving, especially with the cinematography and underscore. I would say if I cared, and I want to so badly, all the right pieces are there except for context. It is evident that these people have been through a lot because of Zon being taken over, but we've barely seen any of that. One montage and one scene is not enough. This whole scene just feels like it should have been later on in the season, and we should have seen more of the consequences of the siege. And I get these are main characters in this scene, and I do appreciate the show for at least showing something with the Zonites, but I feel like we should have seen more of what's happening in Zon since it's a direct consequence of some of the main characters' actions, specifically Ambassa and Caitlyn. And I'm also being really picky because season 1 was so good at pacing, nothing was rushed, they really took their time in developing everything. There was even a longer time jump in season 1, and I think that worked better in season 1 because we really didn't miss much. We got enough context for why the characters ended up where they were after the jump, and the main storyline really takes place after the skip. But in season 2, a main storyline is that Zon is invaded, and we really don't see much of that, and I'll acknowledge I might just have my expectations egregiously high, but this whole scene just feels empty to me because we didn't really see much of their suffering, and this whole episode is frustrating because we don't see why Jinx decided Jinx was dead. Everything feels just so rushed to me. This all literally happens in the first half of the episode, and this episode isn't even the worst culprit of this. Looking at you, episode 5. Anyways, just when things look good for Zon, Rictus has to ruin it by showing up. He and the enforcers arrest everyone at the rally, including Isha, but Sevika manages to get away, but not before losing her arm. Can people please stop taking Sevika's left arm? Hasn't she suffered enough? Oh, and Singe is also arrested while at the rally, but not before he cuts a symbol in his hand and drips blood on the ground. Which I didn't mention this, but at the end of each episode in Act 1, we see a scene of Singed working in his lab with some kind of monster. Anywho, Sevika informs Jinx that Isha has been arrested while at the rally, and everyone else too, but Jinx only really cares about Isha. The two then team up to sneak into the prison to free everyone, which they are successful at. Sevika, I guess. She's the real hero here. And this part also feels empty to me because we did not see the suffering leading up to this moment. And where'd they all go? That elevator was not big enough for all of them. Anyways, due to Singe leaving a trail of blood, this leads the beast right towards the prison where Singe is, who locks himself in a cell. Jinx tells Sevika to get Isha out of there while she holds off the beast, though she's not able to hold it off for long. Just when it looks like the beast is about to give the final blow, the beast recognizes her as Powder, revealing to us that the beast is Vander, Jinx's and Vi's adoptive father. On to episode 5, which starts with the montage of Vi fighting many opponents in a fighting ring, with the biggest one being herself. It's clear she's not in a good state right now, trying to drink and fight her problems away. Fortunately, Laura seems to be looking after her. Oh, and during this montage, we see Jinx fighting Vi. After this, Vi wakes up to Jinx being inside her room, and she immediately goes on the attack, which is a fair response. Jinx tells Vi that Vander is alive, but Vi doesn't believe her, so she tries to choke Jinx out, but can't bring herself to do it.
He needs our help. I can prove it.
We then go back to the prison and see the aftermath of Vander's attack, and Caitlyn and Ambassa figure out that the beast was after Singed. And just to clarify, Caitlyn and Ambassa don't know the beast is Vander, though Ambassa wouldn't know who that is or care. Anyways, they interrogate him to get more information, but he stays silent. Meanwhile, Vi joins Jinx and Isha in searching for Vander. Tensions are naturally high between Jinx and Vi, and they go at it with each other, leading them to start fighting, which Isha tries to break up by biting Vi, who instinctively elbows Isha away. Jinx checks in on Isha, and the three of them continue on their search. search. But uh-oh, looks like Isha is bleeding, which Vanda eventually smells. Meanwhile, back at the prison, Mbessa makes a deal with Singed.
You will serve me. My enemies will be yours. Your weapons will be mine. In return, I will supply all your needs. You will be treated as an esteemed advisor, but I demand absolute loyalty.
Now working with them, Singed takes Caitlyn and Mbessa to his lab. While there, Caitlyn tells Singed that she found out he used to be a revered Academy alchemist and is the one who created Shimmer, the drug that's all over Zon and gives people superhuman abilities. Singed then tells them why he did it.
Why does anyone commit acts others deem unspeakable? For love.
We then see what looks like to be a child inside a capsule, which I believe is his daughter, and he tells them that he's trying to find a cure for death, and he believes the beast has the final key to finding that. And while this has all been going on, we've had scenes checking in on Mel, and we see that she's trapped in a dungeon with the man she recognized as her brother, Kino, whom she thought was dead. While in the dungeon, Kino tells Mel that the mother fell in love with someone and had an affair, which resulted in a child, and that child inherited something their captors want. Mel then quickly figures out that this person is not her brother, and promptly smashes his head against the wall, as one does. Mel is then wrapped up in a chain of thorns where her captors tell her that they thought Kino may have been the child, but realize it was her, calling her sister. Back to Jinx, Vi, and Isha, they come across a room that used to belong to Vander and Silco, and find a note left by Vander apologizing to Silco, which evidently Silco never read.
If he found this, everything might have been different.
Drawn and riled up from the smell of Isha's blood, Vander finds and attacks them, and Vi tries to hold him off. But Jinx pleads with Vi that she's telling the truth and that it's Vander, and Vi decides to trust her. We then get a flashback of Vander at his bar with Silco and Felicia, Vi and Jinx's mother, before shit hits the fan. And it's a really sweet scene where Felicia tells them she's pregnant and Vander suggests the name Violet. After the flashback and through the darkness, Jinx sees Vander and Vi embracing each other, and Vi reaches out to her.
What are you waiting for? He's your dad too.
And this is also a really sweet scene. I'd say if I didn't hate it, this is probably my biggest issue with the season. I feel like Jinx and Vi's issues are resolved way too quickly. Don't get me wrong, the scene itself is really good, especially the music. It's so well done. But I couldn't help but think that the scene doesn't feel earned and should have taken place towards the end of the season. Mind you, we spent most of season 1 and act 1 in season 2 building this conflict between Jinx and Vi, where Vi ends up accepting Jinx has to die, and we went from that to this in one episode. One! And look, I get the circumstances behind it. Vander's alive, so in many ways it's easy to see how Vi would see this as a reset, but I feel like there's just too much baggage between them, and we really need to see more of Vi and Jinx together before we got to this scene. And this goes back to what I mentioned about the show taking its time in season 1. It's so weird to me that they take their time with developing Vi against Jinx, only for it to resolve rather quickly. We literally went from them trying to kill each other to this in one episode. One! Anyways, long tangent over. Back at the gemstone buried underground, we see a hooded man walking away taking something. I think it's hex core. I don't really know. Like I said, all this hex core, hex tech stuff is really confusing to me. It wasn't watching the show, but trying to explain it is. Anyways, guess who's back? It's Jace. Oof, he's been through it. The hooded man then reveals himself to be Sallow, who is now cured from his injuries thanks to visiting Victor, who he was told about by Les during one of their sessions. Victor then talks to Jace through Sallow.
Jace.
Oh, I don't know why, but this grosses me out. I like it, it's unsettling, but oh. Anyway, Jace and Victor talk, and the two have now switched ideologies. Victor is saying Jace was right and that hex tech can heal people, while Jace now wants to destroy it. Victor ends the conversation and Sallow tries to go back on his way.
I can't let you leave. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry too.
Ooh. Damn. Anyways, episode 6. It starts with Victor and Sky in astral form inside the hex core where they witness Sallow's death. We then see Caitlyn and Mbessa train together, and while training, Mbessa goes over the 3 core principles of strength.
I've discovered a 4th principle, one that heightens all others. Sacrifice. The temper born of suffering. We understand it as others cannot.
Singed then comes in to tell them he's tracked down the beast. Next, we see Vi, Jinx, Isha, and Vander arrive at the commune that Victor has built down in the fissures. He basically created a cult. They meet with Victor, who's in his fabulous era. They've heard of his healing abilities and wonder if he can help Vander. Victor tells Vi that it'll take some time, but he's willing to help Vander under the condition that Vander is restrained at night because of that. Anyways, they agree to Victor's condition and stay at the commune for quite some time, while Victor and Sky try to help Vander. Also, in case it's confusing, Sky was reincarnated into the Hextech when she died and only exists in astral form. Duh. Eventually, Mbessa and her forces show up to the commune to find the beast. Singe then talks with Victor, who's not willing to hand over Vander as he still needs his help, and he tells Singe to leave. As Singe leaves, Vi follows him, where she's then ambushed by Caitlyn. Aw, what a happy reunion. Caitlyn tells Vi that they tracked down a beast, and she asks what Vi's doing down there, to which Vi says she's trying to save her dad. Singe reports back to Mbessa that Victor is trying to save the man and the beast, and if Victor succeeds, they won't be able to use the beast for their plans. He also tells Mbessa he can craft a serum that will prohibit this. Caitlyn then walks in with Vi as a prisoner, and we see Jace looming over the commune. You good there, Jace? Caitlyn and Singe then go back to see Vander, while Mbessa gives a classic evil monologue to Vi, though all is not what it seems as Vi breaks free from her cuffs. We then get a flashback of Caitlyn and Vi formulating their plan, working together to prevent Mbessa from getting Vander. And I don't like how quickly Caitlyn switches sides here, but I've already had enough long tangents, so I'll save that for my dislike section. Anyways, with Jinx and Isha looped in, Operation Save Vander is a go. Vi takes out Mbessa and Caitlyn takes out Singe, but uh-oh, a new challenger approaches as Victus takes out Caitlyn. Oh, and while this is happening, Jace almost murks a child. Damn, another one, Jace? Anyways, this child takes Jace towards Victor. Back to the action, Jinx fights with Victus, and just as Victus is about to do the final blow, wow, I've said that a lot, Vander decides to enter into the ring and absolutely wrecks Victus. And then Jace kills Victor. Uh-oh. Vi, Jinx, and Caitlyn go outside to figure out what's happening, but in doing so, created an opening for Singe to slip Vander his serum, making him go berserk. Vander then immediately finishes what he started and kills Victus, and Mbessa sees that Caitlyn has betrayed her, and she charges in with her soldiers. A fight breaks out, and Jinx is knocked to the ground, with Vander headed right towards her. Isha sees this and rushes towards Vander, using hexquakes to shoot and take him down, protecting Jinx but sacrificing herself in the process. And that concludes Act 2, on to Act 3, which I really don't have that many issues with. In fact, the next episode is one of my favorites. In episode 7, we finally see why Jace is so rattled up, and we get to see what happened to Heimerdinger and Echo. Yay, Echo's back! And all three of them wake up in an alternate universe. Jace wakes up in a universe where Piltover is destroyed by Hextech, and Echo and Heimerdinger wake up in a universe where Hextech wasn't invented. In Echo and Heimerdinger's alternate universe, Zahn and Piltover are at peace, as it seems Vander was able to bring order to the Undercity. And in this universe, Jinx doesn't exist, because she's just Powder, and she and Echo are in a relationship. We then learn that in this universe, doing the job that Powder, Vi, Milo, and Clagger took in Season 1 that led to Jace's lab exploding, Vi was accidentally killed. Because of this, Hextech isn't created, which means none of the events that happen after this job in Season 1 occur, and many characters are still alive, like Milo, Clagger, and Benzo. Despite this being a happier universe, Echo wants to get home because he knows he has people depending on him. And although Heimerdinger seems content to stay, he just can't help himself from helping his pupil. Along with the help of Powder, they succeed in creating a time machine that allows Echo to travel back in time by 4 seconds. And with some extra power, Heimerdinger creates a machine that will take them back to their universe. Unfortunately, while the machine is in process, something goes wrong, so Heimerdinger sacrifices himself to send Echo home. Meanwhile, Chase is not having a good time. While walking around a destroyed Piltover, he's chased by robot-looking things and falls down a hole, breaking his leg. After much time, he's able to climb himself out and then does more climbing by climbing up a building where he sees this universe's version of him. A hooded figure then appears and sends Chase back home to prevent this tragedy from occurring in his universe. This is why Chase tried to kill Victor. And yes, I said try because turns out Victor wasn't actually killed, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Episode 8 starts with checking back in with Mel, who is wrapped in a chain of thorns. Something comes over her and she blasts away the chains, waking up her abilities. Mel realizes she's a mage and is related to Black Rose. This explains how she and Jace were able to survive the council attack without much injury. The mage holding her captive, LeBlanc, tells Mel who she really is and gives her a necklace. We then see the aftermath of episode 6, where at the commune a funeral is held for Rictus. Singe is working on Vander, and Victor, told you he's alive, wakes up inside all, yes all, his followers. Victor tells Mbessa about the wild ruin buried underground, though he says anomaly, but I'm assuming they're the same thing. He tells her he can use this for his glorious revolution, and she can use it to finish Singe's work on curing death.
But Jace's attack has done its work. I do not have the strength to overcome the defense he will raise against me.
I will deliver you to this anomaly. if you agree to empower every soldier I bring you.
Oh, Victor is in his villain era. Slay! After this, Vi wakes up from her injury she sustained during the fight at the commune, and Loris tells her that Caitlyn imprisoned Jinx. Vi then immediately finds Caitlyn and confronts her about this. They go at it, Vi telling Caitlyn that she was used by Mbessa, which Caitlyn is fully aware and ashamed of. She tells Vi that after making sure she was safe, Jinx willingly surrendered.
I didn't even have time to think before they hauled her off. She's being held in the bunker while I decide what to do.
Later on, we see Jace inside the rebuilt council room, and Mel walks in. She tells him about her abilities, but as they're talking, Jace realizes they're being watched, and appears the robot-looking thing we saw in the alternate universe, who is none other than Victor.
Somehow I think you already understand what must transpire to complete my mission. I would prefer to do so in peace. The Noxian has other intentions.
Mother?
Victor attacks, and while working together, Mel and Jace are able to decommission the robot thing. And calling them robots doesn't really seem accurate to me, but I don't know what else to call them. After this, Victor then tells Singe to start his process. We then see Jinx clearly distraught over losing Isha, and she hallucinates a conversation with Silco. Silco tells Jinx killing is a cycle, but Jinx is tired of running in circles and of everything she tries to do falling apart. Silco then tells Jinx that the cycle only ends when you find the will to walk away. He disappears, and Vi shows up to release Jinx.
I swiped these from the guard station. If you come, help use all that explosive potential of yours for good, maybe we could rewrite your story like you did with Zahn.
Vi opens the cell and Jinx gets out, but she locks Vi inside.
Wait. There's no good version of me. What are you gonna do? Break the cycle.
Issues aside, this was a really good scene. Meanwhile, Jace has gathered all the who's who in both Piltover and Zahn to warn them about the upcoming invasion from Victor and Mbessa, and he shows everyone the robot he and Mel defeated. He pleads with them to all join forces to work together to stop them, though not everyone chooses to stay and fight back. Because of the upcoming invasion, the city's outskirts are evacuated and prepped for war. Oh my god, it's Steb! We then see Caitlyn find Vi in Jinx's cell, and they get back together. Meanwhile, Mel visits her mother at the commune to confront her about what she knows, and to try to talk her out of the invasion, but is not successful. We then flashback to see what Victor meant by asking Singe to start his process. Through using Vander's in Victor's body, Singe transforms Victor's cult members into the robots, and transforms Vander's and Victor's bodies as well. And Skye dies again for some reason.
I will miss our talks.
No. You won't.
Ooh. Cold. Episode 9, the final episode of the series, which starts with Jinx burning Silco's office and blowing herself up. However, Echo appears and is able to go back 40 seconds to stop her. Jinx keeps trying to blow herself up, but Echo keeps going back in time preventing this, and eventually he's able to talk her out of it.
No matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new.
Next, we see everyone prepping for war, and the battle begins. This whole episode is primarily just the battle, so I'll go over the main highlights. Vi and Loris are inside a tower, and we see Nox's soldiers charge. Caitlyn tries to snipe Mbessa with Maddie by her side, fails. Eventually, the soldiers take over the tower, and Vi is pinned down to the ground, and Loris is killed. Aww. Caitlyn, Maddie, and Steb, and others, work together to try and blow up the spear containing Victor. Run, Steb, run! This also fails. Caitlyn and Steb, and others, are taken hostage, and it's revealed Maddie is a Nox's sleeper agent. Just as Maddie is about to execute Caitlyn, Mel reflects the bullet back towards Maddie and dies. Mbessa readies her soldiers to attack Mel, but Jinx makes an epic entrance alongside with Echo, Scar, Savika, and others, and the battle is turned back into Piltover's favor. They're able to destroy the sphere, but Victor is not there. Nope, he's underground where Jace is trying to decommission the gemstone. Mel and Caitlyn fight Mbessa, Jinx and Vi fight Vander, and Jace tries to stop Victor. Mel puts an end to Mbessa by pulling off her necklace, which allows LeBlanc to get to her. But Mel doesn't want Mbessa to die, and she tries to save her, but is too late. Victor powers on the gemstone, and he and Jace soar through the air to the top of the building Jinx and Vi are fighting in. And Victor puts his plan into motion as his robots incapacitate everyone. Not Steb! Tendrils then come down to make everyone a part of his glorious revolution. Everyone that is but Echo, who is able to stop Victor by overloading his time machine, causing it to explode. This frees Jace from Victor's grasp, and he embraces Victor, which allows him to see the alternate universe that Jace was in, and revealing to us that the hooded figure was that universe's Victor. This terrifies Victor, and with the help of Jace, they destroy the Hextech and die in the process, freeing everybody, including Steb. However, the battle is not over. Due to the explosion, Jinx falls onto a ledge and sees Vander and Vi have fallen on a ledge below her. Jinx begs Vi to get off, but Vi can't bring herself to leave Vander again, who then wakes up and attacks her. Jinx knocks Vander off of her, and Vi grabs hold of Jinx, but Jinx is being held onto by Vander. Jinx then sacrifices herself to save Vi.
Always with you, sis.
She then uses the Hexroid to blow herself and Vander up, dying in the process. With it now over, Piltover mourns those lost in the battle. The council reforms with new members, including Savika, Singe's daughter is cured from death, and Mel leaves Piltover with the Noxus fleet, to which she now leads. We then see Caitlyn notice Vi singing by a fireplace, which Vi says is a tune her mother used to hum. We then see them embrace each other, with the final shot of the series being of an airship flying away. And that's Arcane Season 2. Now off to the second half of the video. This is going to be so much editing. Moving on to my likes, and I know I was pretty harsh with some of the episodes, but for the most part, I actually really liked the season. I like that we get to see the immediate aftermath of the council attack. I love it when seasons pick up right where they left off. I also really enjoyed that in Act 1, we spent a lot of time with the characters handling the aftermath. Caitlyn, Vi, Jace, Savika, Jinx, all of them are trying to process what happened and come to terms with those they've lost. And I'm glad we got to see that. I also enjoyed how minor characters in Season 1 weren't just ignored and had an impact in Season 2, like Rennie getting revenge for her son, and Sky's death leaving an impact on Victor. Even though Sky was a minor character that most audience members probably didn't remember or care that much about, Victor obviously would. And I like that the story showed and continued that, as most shows wouldn't. In general, I love the first act. My only real complaint is that I wish we got to see more of the strike team. They had such an epic buildup and I was excited to see them work together. But that's a personal minor thing, and everything else was paced super well. It was a banger of a first act, just as strong as Season 1. With Act 2, I've obviously complained about it, and I do think parts of it were rushed, but what we were given was really good. The rally scene and Vi and Jinx embracing Vander were well done. I just feel like we needed to see more leading up to those moments. With Act 3, I'd say the pacing was a lot better than Act 2. I love that we got a whole episode scene where Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger went, especially with Echo. It was fascinating seeing what could have been, and really hammers the tragedy of what has occurred in Echo's universe, that there was a path where peace could have happened, and that Powder had the capabilities of turning out good, that she was not always destined to turn into Jinx. I also like that episode 9 was mostly of the battle. I think that was a smart call. I would have been pretty annoyed if the battle was like 10 minutes long, and I think the show's ending was satisfying. I'm a stickler for endings. I'm very picky about them, and I liked Arcane's ending. I think it makes sense, everyone's arcs are completed, but it's not a complete happy ending. This was a war, so everyone surviving and living happily ever after would not have been satisfying, and fortunately the show did not go in that direction. Other general likes, the animation, I mean, come on, this was a feast for the eyes. I just got the sense that the animators had a lot of fun creating the season, and I love that. And the music and underscore hits every single time. Oh my God, they just chose the best songs for every scene to give you the biggest emotional impact possible. That was so wordy. Going back to talking about minor characters, I do like Arcane's level of detail in showing minor and background characters and showing their fates. Savika, Scar, Loris, Steb, Maddie, they weren't forgotten about. And we even get important background characters, like the father who dies in the battle, the man playing piano who fights in the war, and most notably Gert. Which, side note, why are there so many 4-letter names in Arcane? Anyways, I didn't mention Gert in my overview, but we saw her throughout all of Season 2 and even saw her having a band in Echo's alternate universe, and we see her die in the battle in episode 9, showing us, the audience, that it's not just the main characters being impacted, it's everyone. And I love that attention to detail. And I know this might be a tad hypocritical of me saying I like the attention to detail to minor characters when I literally talked about not caring about the rally scene, but to be fair, if the rally scene did contain main characters, I still wouldn't have cared because we did not get the proper development to warrant emotion from that scene. I enjoy checking in with minor characters when they are developed well and don't take time away from developing the main characters. Moving on to my favorite character, I'd have to say it's Caitlyn, though Steb gets an honorable mention. And the reason why I like Steb is that he literally doesn't say a single word throughout the whole season, yet I found myself caring about his well-being the whole time. He's always the first to step in and help someone in need, respects everybody no matter who they are or where they're from, and doesn't hesitate to do what needs to be done. And he's kinda hot. Moving on to Caitlyn, I enjoyed her arc this season. I really liked how the show took its time to develop her anger, and how that anger turned towards hatred, which then clouded her judgment. That said though, she still had the self-awareness to know this hatred was a bad thing, and still cared about the people in Zon and didn't like the violence taking place by the siege. But her anger and hatred clouded her too much to call it off. And I really enjoyed seeing that inner conflict within Caitlyn, and I think the show did a phenomenal job showcasing that. Moving on to my dislikes, I briefly mentioned this, but I did not like the Black Rose storyline. It just felt like it came out of left field, and there was already so much going on that introducing another storyline made things a bit overwhelming. Granted, I don't think that storyline was poorly written, I just found it the least interesting one, and it took time away from other storylines that could have used it. I also wasn't the biggest fan of quite a few main characters just piecing out for half the season, especially Echo. I was looking forward to seeing more of him and the Firelights, but unfortunately we didn't get that. But it did give us episode 7, which I really did like, so I guess it's a fair trade. And overall, I don't think these characters being absent was a bad writing choice, just not my personal preference. Going back to episode 6, it felt like Caitlyn deciding to betray Mbessa happened way too quickly. And yes, we did see a lot of moments where Caitlyn questioned Mbessa's tactics, but why turn now? We don't even see the conversation where Vi tells her that the Beast is her dad, just that she's there to save her dad. And obviously we can conclude that she did, not everything has to be shown to us, but considering this was the conversation that gets Caitlyn to flip, I think we really should have seen it. I loved the slow burn of Caitlyn's descent, but then her quick turnaround did not contrast well. Moving on to my least favorite character, it's Isha. She was such an obvious plot device it wasn't even funny, and I never saw her as a genuine character. It was obvious she was going to be a version of Powder for Jinx, and that Jinx was going to see herself in her. It's a bit cliched and heavy-handed for me. To be fair though, Jinx is a very flawed and broken character, and perhaps a child coming into her life that reminds her of who she used to be might have been the only way Jinx could go on her redemption arc. Still, I don't like how they showed us this. This goes back to my confusion of Jinx saying Jinx is dead. That's a huge shift and we did not get to see why that happened. And yes, I get that Jinx doesn't want to mess up her bond with Isha. She feels like she finally has a friend and doesn't want to mess that up for once, which is even more reason why we should have seen more of them together, which would have developed Isha more and making her not feel like a plot device. And I wish they showed us Jinx seeing herself in Isha rather than her literally telling us she does. I will say I do think Isha dying was the right push to get Jinx to finally realize all her wrongdoings and try to make amends. My biggest overall complaint though is that Act 2, and by association Act 3, felt like they should have been Season 3 storylines. I love and respect that they decided to only do 2 seasons, not milking it like so many shows do, but then they told a 3-season story in 2 seasons. Specifically, Season 2 should have been 2 seasons. Like I said earlier, episodes 4 and 5 felt rushed, and though Act 3 was a good ending, I just couldn't help but shake this feeling that we should have spent more time with the characters before we got to that epic finale. We should have had episodes seeing Caitlyn and Mbessa taking over Zaun. We should have had episodes where we saw more of Jinx and Isha together, and then Jinx and Vi hashing it out. I actually thought it would have been interesting if the way that Jinx and Vi reconciled was that they had to join forces to take down Caitlyn to free Zaun. That would have been interesting. Also, Vander's storyline could have used more time before they found out who he was. We even could have used an extra episode dedicated to Victor's cult, which was introduced and destroyed in 1 episode. Even Acts 1 and 3 could have used more episodes to give moments and characters time to breathe. We could have spent more time with the strike team and developing Laura, Steb, and Maddie, who had a lot of potential to be a complex character. Yes, Maddie is a minor character, but she clearly had a major impact with the main character, aka Caitlyn, so more time should have been spent with her. And yes, she was a Noxus sleeper agent, but maybe she started having doubts. Maybe she wanted to switch sides, but ultimately chooses not to because Caitlyn betrayed her, or because she doesn't like dictator Caitlyn, and believes sticking with Mbessa is probably the safest path for her, which tragically gets her killed. They could have done a lot with Maddie, and spending more time with Maddie would have made her portrayal more impactful for the audience. And with Act 3, when Echo came back, we could have seen him working with Jinx and telling the Firelights he's alive. And I found out that a whole ass hour of content was cut between Jinx and Echo, which would have been a lot of fun to see, though honestly, I'm okay that we didn't, as I think it was fine as is, and I think there are other things that needed that development more. But of course, they didn't have time to develop these things, which brings me to my how I changed section. The easiest thing for me to do would just be to spread out Acts 2 and 3 across 2 seasons rather than 1, or even just have Season 2 have 4 acts with an extra act added between 1 and 2, or just have a whole ass episode right before episode 4 so that we could see more of Zombie taking over. We really needed to see more of that. And yes, these are minor characters, but I feel when a huge event like that occurs that involves many minor characters and is a massive consequence of a major character's actions, that event needs more development to fully understand the impact. So this one additional episode could be about invading Zaun. It could start with Caitlyn declaring martial law and the enforcers setting up the barricades. We could see more of the violence taking place and how people are suffering, which you could have shown through the Firelights and other Zaunite characters we already know, further emphasizing Caitlyn's newfound harshness, which would then make the rally scene more impactful. We could also use this new time to develop Isha's and Jinx's relationship, which then gives us more time for Jinx and Vi to make amends. Of course, though, it's easy for me to say, yeah, just add more episodes so it doesn't feel rushed. That's not how the industry works. I'm sure the writers had a lot of pressure coming from the studio and executives. Not to mention, anything that happens in this season will likely play into other series made and the League of Legends game itself. So I'm sure there was pressure to include a lot of things, which meant certain things had to be wrapped up quicker to include everything. So that means I'm sticking to 9 episodes, I don't get any more time, I had to work with the restraints I'm given. So with my changes, there are 3 main things I want to show. 1, I want to show more of Jinx's and Isha's relationship so that we see why Jinx is dead, and so that Isha doesn't feel like a plot device. 2, I want to spend more time with Vi so that when she makes amends with Jinx that doesn't feel rushed. And 3, I want to better show why Caitlyn decides to flip sides in episode 6. These are my biggest complaints, and these are the ones I feel like I can address based off of my restraints. And to address these things, some cuts must be made. Now again, because the show has tie-ins with League of Legends and other series potentially being made, I don't think there's a lot I realistically think I can cut. I would love to completely cut the Black Rose storyline, but it's clear they want it here to set up a Noxus storyline with Mel for the game and possibly another show, so I can't cut it. And I realistically think I can't cut anything involving characters that originated from League of Legends, which restrains me even more. I also won't be touching Acts 1 and 3, just Act 2, and any scenes in Act 2 I don't mention means I'm not cutting them and they are staying the same. Finally, at long last, this is how I changed Arcane Season 2. I just spit all over the camera. Starting with episode 4, I'm going to cut the scene where Savika tells Jinx that Isha and everybody at the rally were arrested, and I'm cutting most of the prison break sequence. I'm not completely cutting it out, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm also going to cut the montage in the beginning showing Piltover taking over Zon, and I'm cutting the scene in which Caitlyn is in bed with Maddie, but I will reincorporate some of these elements later on, just not everything because I needed that time. I'll have episode 4 start with Caitlyn declaring martial law, and the enforcers putting up the barriers and grabbing people violently, asking where Jinx is. As this is going on, Jinx and Isha are looking for parts to do something with Jinx's missing finger that Caitlyn shot in episode 3. Here we see Jinx talking with Isha, asking why she would protect her, and telling her she shouldn't have done that. As they're scavenging, they see and hear enforcers looking for Jinx in the distance. Jinx readies her weapon to fight them, but she notices Isha doing the same. Knowing that Isha will put herself in harm's way to protect her, Jinx puts away her weapon and decides to get Isha to safety. This can then explain why Jinx decides to hide out with Isha instead of rebelling against the enforcers. It's a way to keep an eye on her and protect her, and she's heavily motivated to do this because she doesn't quite understand why Isha would save her, and so she kind of wants to figure that out and return the favor. We do need a time jump since the rest of the story needs a couple months to pass, so to do this, I'm going to create a new montage showing 2 things. I'll have it show scenes of Zonites rebelling against the enforcers like they do in the one that already exists, but I'll also have shots of Jinx watching over Isha to make sure she's safe. At first, these shots will look more like Jinx is babysitting Isha, but as she watches Isha, she notices her interest in building things similar to how she did when she was younger, aka when she was Powder. I'd have a few shots where Jinx helps Isha with the gadgets she's trying to create, and looks less like Jinx babysitting Isha and more like 2 sisters playing. It's not a lot, but I think it's a better way to show how Jinx sees herself in Isha, and at least shows more of their dynamic. And since we see them growing closer, this makes Jinx want to protect Isha even more, so to do that, she kills Jinx because she knows Isha idolizes her. I did think it'd be fun to play with the idea that Jinx sees Isha as Powder and sees herself as Silco, and she knows what that dynamic leads to and how that ends, so she tries to prevent that by killing Jinx. But unfortunately, I don't have enough time to play with that. Anyways, this new montage concludes the time jump, and I'll keep the bug scene and Jinx dyeing Isha's hair, but I'm cutting the part where Jinx tells Isha she sees herself in her because we already saw that through my new montage. Fast forwarding, I am keeping the checkpoint scene the same and keeping the scene with Caitlyn and Maddie investigating the checkpoint incident, but I'll add here the dialogue where Caitlyn mentions not liking how long it's taking to find Jinx. I'll have Maddie still tell Caitlyn she could call it off, and have her lovingly put her hand on Caitlyn, showing us that they are more than just friends, and Caitlyn will still say not until they find Jinx. I'm still keeping Maddie and Caitlyn being together, just not making it as blatant because I needed that time. Fast forwarding to Savika asking Jinx about the checkpoint incident, this scene is going to mostly stay the same, but based on Isha's reaction, I'll have Jinx figure out that it was Isha at the checkpoint. After Savika leaves, she addresses this with Isha, and Isha signs something along the lines of telling Jinx that Savika is right. This makes Jinx go off on her own. Fast forwarding a bit, bit, we see Jinx in Silco's office, which I'm keeping that scene the same, but then right after we're going to the scene where Jinx is looking for Isha. She can't find her, but she guesses she's at the rally, so she heads there. We then get the rally, which plays out the same. Isha still shows up, Richter still ruins it, everyone's getting arrested, but then Jinx shows up. She sees what's going on and fights back, freeing everyone from the enforcers. Well, almost everyone. We see Singe and Isha getting arrested and taken away, though not before Singe cuts his hand and we see Jinx go after them. We then go to the prison, and the prison break scene is much shorter, with Jinx quickly slipping in and grabbing Isha. Vander still attacks, and Jinx throws Isha in a cell to protect her and fights Vander like she already does. And the episode ends the same with Vander recognizing Powder. Singe still needs to be in prison, since that's how he meets Mbessa and Caitlyn, and Vander needed to go to the prison,
since that's how Mbessa and Caitlyn will know of his existence and want to go after him.
And of course, we need Jinx to see Vander, which is why I'm keeping Isha getting arrested so she goes to the prison. But obviously, the prison break scene is now not as big, so it can be a lot shorter. Next is episode 5, and here I'll be condensing the scenes of Mel. There's 3 total, and in the second scene, she finds some puzzle thing, but I'm going to cut that part and combine the moments where Kino tells Mel about the affair, and Mel figuring out that's not really Kino into one scene. I'm also going to trim some of the scenes of Singed with Caitlyn and Mbessa. There's not a lot I can cut here. I'm not going to be able to add as much as I like, but it'll have to do. Episode 5 will start with Vander running away, and Jinx and Isha following him. He stops at the railway and looks back at Jinx, who reaches out her hand to comfort him. She tells him it's her, but accidentally says Jinx instead of Powder, which confuses Vander and he runs away. This upsets Jinx, realizing she messed up. She gets frustrated that she lost Vander, and Isha tries to comfort her. And Jinx vents about how she doesn't know what to do, and that Powder could help Vander, but Jinx can't. This then prompts Isha to suggest to Jinx she find Vi. And because Isha is nonverbal, we might not realize that's what she is telling Jinx, we just see her sign it to Jinx, and we could see those light blob things light up as Jinx realizes what Isha is saying, which the symbolism there is kind of heavy-handed, but I think it works, and then we go right into opening credits. I'm adding this in because I wanted to give some explanation as to why Jinx goes to Vi, considering the last time she saw her, they were trying to kill each other. Plus, I like this line that Jinx says when she, Isha, and Vi are in the abandoned railway.
Why'd you come get me? You don't actually need my help. You haven't for a long time.
Last time Vander needed us, we tried it alone, and nothing was ever the same.
I wanted to show how Jinx came to that realization, and having Isha be the one to suggest she goes to Vi just shows her more as a character, that she has her own thoughts and ideas. She still kind of feels a little plot divisive to me, but I think that's the best I can do. After the opening credits, I'm keeping Vi in the fighting ring, but I'm extending this montage. While at the bar, Vi overhears people talking about Jinx, talking about how she's a hero for sticking it to Piltover and rebelling against them. She'll also see people dancing about with blue hair. Gurge cameo? This will fuel her anger even more because she knows Jinx is no hero. She does more fighting, and back at the bar, she overhears people talking about the rally, and how Jinx saved everyone there from the enforcers. This upsets Vi, and she confronts that person, could even be the guy she punches here, telling them that Jinx is not a hero and will never change. More fighting, Jinx finds Vi at the bar, Vi is knocked out, and finds Jinx in her room, and the rest of the episode plays out the same. Because I've added Vi overhearing Jinx being a symbol and a hero, this makes her start to wonder if Jinx is truly changing, which is one of the reasons why she agrees to go with Jinx. She's of course curious about Vander, but she wants to see for herself this heroic Jinx. And because she's heard about heroic Jinx, she's more primed to make amends with her. And that's all I really think I can do with episode 5, though I wish I could show more of Jinx and Vi together before they embrace Vander. For episode 6, all I'm literally going to do is add a couple lines of dialogue in 2 scenes. To make room for this, I'm taking a couple lines from the scene where Singed and Victor meet, because it doesn't need to be as long as it is. So fast forwarding to Caitlyn training with Mbessa and where she goes over their principles of strengths. Mbessa mentions a 4th principle, which is sacrifice, but Caitlyn doesn't react to her saying this, so I'm changing that. I'd have Caitlyn be confused and not like this, asking Mbessa what she means, and saying something along the lines of, haven't we sacrificed enough? Mbessa then looks at her and says something along the lines of, you still have much to learn, child. Singe then cuts them off, telling them he's found Vander. Fast forward all the way to the flashback of Caitlyn and Vi formulating their plan. I'm going to have the flashback start right after Vi tells Caitlyn she's trying to save her dad. Caitlyn's confused confused and asks Vi what she means, and Vi tells her the beast is Vander. This makes Caitlin think about what Mbessa said about sacrifice. There could even be a flashback of her saying that line, or that line's voiced over in this scene, making Caitlin realize that in order to continue on the path she's on, she has to sacrifice Vi's father. And considering Caitlin just lost her mother, there's no way she'll allow this, and she's done making sacrifices. So she teams up with Vi, and they formulate their plan, and the episode plays out the same. It's not a big change, and honestly everything I'm adding is kind of already implied, but you can't always imply everything, especially with a huge character moment like this. I think it's better to show it. My voice is so hoarse, like and that's how I changed Arcane Season 2. It's not a lot, and I'm not even sure if I made it better or just completely ruined it. I just wanted to try to develop some of the characters more. That all said, given the restraints these writers had, I do think they did a great job at writing everything that needed to be told. It's just unfortunate these restraints made some of the season feel rushed and underdeveloped. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, which didn't really fit in any of my other sections, so I just kind of threw it at the end here, is that I don't think a lot of the characters are actually dead. I am a firm believer that if there's no body, there's no death. And I don't believe Heimerdinger, Jace, Victor, and Jinx are actually dead. Considering we know that other series are going to be made in this world, just taking place in different location, I could totally see them bringing back these characters somehow. Heimerdinger could have easily just been transported to a different universe, and there's a theory that Jinx escaped the blast using her shimmer abilities and was on the airship, which I actually like that theory, that Vi believes Jinx is dead, but the tragedy is she isn't, she just doesn't know that. It's giving Wicked ending vibes, and I like it. With Jace and Victor, I read somewhere that the showrunners or writers or somebody from the show confirmed that Jace and Victor are dead, but I couldn't find that article again. Regardless, I don't buy it. Sure, their bodies were destroyed, but they're probably still alive in the Arcane like Sky was. So maybe, yeah, technically they're dead, but not gone. I guess it just depends on your definition of death. Also, all four of these characters are from the League of Legends game, popular ones at that. I know Jinx is. I've never played the game though. But because of that, I find it difficult to believe they would kill off characters that originated from the game. But funny enough, there are characters who did die where we didn't see their bodies, but I do believe are dead. Those characters being Isha and Vander, which Vander is also from League of Legends, he just goes by Warwick in the game. But even then, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought Vander back, because they kind of said in the show he's immortal or close to that, and he survived a Hex Core blast before, so he could survive it again. He just has to survive the fall, which if anyone could, it'd be him. But that's enough of me yapping. Let me know what you think of my thoughts and changes down below. There is a part to me that would love to rewrite season 2 without all the restraints I gave myself, but that would be so much work. But if there's a high demand for it, I'll do it. Which there won't be, so I guess I'm in the clear. But yeah. Goodbye.